In 36 BBY, Ahsoka Tano was born on the planet Shaylee to the Togrutas Pavti and Nakil. Early in her life, Tano was taken on a journey by her mother, where the young girl had an encounter with a Rakshir feline. She proceeded to ride atop the animal to return home. Upon her return, the elder Togruta Gantiki realized the infant was Force-sensitive and declared that she would be a Jedi. When Tano was 3 years old, Tano was nearly enslaved by an impostor, who intercepted the signal to the Jedi Order and hoped to use her powers for their own ends. Being unable to properly explain to the village elders the danger she knew the impostor posed, Tano's fellow villagers held scorn towards her when she refused to demonstrate her Force powers, but the impostor's plan was ultimately thwarted. Afterward, she was discovered by Jedi Master Plo Koon and accepted into the Jedi Order, beginning her new life after Koon brought her to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, where she was raised. Training as a Jedi initiate restored her self-confidence after the fear caused by the impostor impacted it. At some point, Tano traveled to the Jedi Temple on Ilum to acquire a kyber crystal for her lightsaber. Although her visit to Ilum was overall unremarkable, her decision to trust Yoda's teachings while searching for her crystal restored her ability to trust others after it was impacted by the false Jedi. From there, she would construct said lightsaber using the kyber crystal under the tutelage of Jedi architect droid Huyang. At the age of 14, mere months after the beginning of the Clone Wars, Tano was assigned to Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker as his apprentice on the orders of Yoda. Having been granted the rank of Padawan, which made her a Jedi Commander under the Jedi Military Integration Act, she was sent to the planet Christophsis in order to meet her new mentor. Upon arrival, she learned that the Republic forces were still battling for control of the planet. As her first mission with her new master, Tano and Anakin snuck behind enemy lines to destroy the deflector shield, allowing Obi-Wan Kenobi to capture Separatist General Worm Loathsome and end the conflict. After the Battle of Christophsis, Skywalker and his new apprentice were dispatched to find and rescue Jabba the Hutt's missing son Rada, who was captured by Separatist forces and brought to the planet Teth. Rescuing Rada was critical to ensure trade and shipping routes for the Republic through Hutt space in the Outer Rim territories, which they ultimately succeeded in. During the early stages of the war, Tano, often but not always paired with her master, was a part of several missions for the Republic, including saving Plo Koon and his clones from being stranded in space, leading a squadron to destroy the Separatists' new warship, the Malevolence, protecting Bathawu from Grievous's attack, destroying a Separatist listening post on one of Rusan's moons while also rescuing R2-D2, working with Master Luminara Unduli to guard an imprisoned Viceroy Newt Gunray on the way to Coruscant, which was ultimately unsuccessful after Dooku's assassin Asajj Ventress was able to free him and escape, rescuing Skywalker and Kenobi on the crystalline planet of Vancor, evacuating Jedi Knight Aayla Secura from imminent death at the Battle of Quell, which after taking damage and accidentally jumping into hyperspace, left Skywalker injured and the group stranded on Meriden. After coming into contact with the local Lurman village, they were able to heal Skywalker in time to drive off Separatist forces under the command of Lok Durd, who wanted to test his new superweapon, the Defoliator, which was capable of destroying all organic life. Tano later investigated the sudden disappearance of Senators Padme Amidala and Jar Jar Binks on Naboo, which led to the uncovering and ultimate defeat of a hidden Separatist laboratory led by Dr. Nuvo Vindi, who was attempting to recreate the Blue Shadow virus. Although she was infected by the deadly virus, Skywalker and Kenobi were able to obtain a cure. Tano also commanded a squadron for the first time during the Battle of Ryloth, which initially was a trap leading to countless lives lost, but ultimately ended with the Separatist blockade broken and the planet freed. Tano, Skywalker, and Kenobi were later dispatched to Felucia, but forced to retreat from Separatist forces. Due to her inability to follow orders, she was assigned to guard duty in the Jedi Archives. During this time, bounty hunters Cad Bane and Cato Parasiti broke into the temple and stole a Jedi holocron, although Tano was able to capture Parasiti. The Jedi followed Bane to the Deveron system, but were unable to save Master Rapal, who possessed the Kyber crystal containing Force-sensitive children, or stop Bane, who had escaped with the activated holocron. Eventually, they were able to rescue the Force-sensitive children Bane had stolen and hid on Mustafar, but he escaped captivity once again. Later missions included training Felucian farmers to defend themselves against Hondo Ohnaka's pirate gang, destroying the primary droid foundry on Geonosis during the Second Battle of Geonosis, in which she met fellow Padawan Barasafi, fighting off brainworm-infected clones in Barasafi aboard a medical frigate, hunting down her stolen lightsaber with the help of Master Tarasanube from Coruscant underworld criminals Cassie Kryar and Ion Marcy, tracking down bounty hunter Aura Singh with Master Plo Koon, which resulted in the capture of young Boba Fett and Singh crashing on Florum, uncovering corruption scandals on Mandalore led by Prime Minister Elmick and rescuing Duchess Satine with the help of a group of students, protecting Senator Amidala at Alderaan's refugee conference from an assassination attempt by still-alive Aura Singh, who was hired by Zero the Hutt, rescuing the kidnapped daughters of Pantora's chairman Papanoida from the Trade Federation, returning to Ilum for a new kyber crystal and constructing a second lightsaber, which took a great deal of time to learn to wield, preventing shapeshifter Cato Parasiti from bombing Senator Amidala's apartment during a meeting with the Arthurian delegates, helping Skywalker and Amidala escape Separatist space and arrive on Alderaan during an engagement in which the wedded couple had planned on spending alone with each other, training Senator Amidala in starfighter combat, and accompanying Amidala behind enemy lines to Raxus, where they met Separatist Senator and Amidala's former mentor, Mina Bonteri of Onderon. During this time, Tano met her son, Lux, and learned that the politics behind the war were not always as black and white as she initially thought. At some point, Tano also attended a ceremony where she was praised by Yoda and awarded an add-on to her Padawan braid. Later, Tano, along with Skywalker and Kenobi, were brought through aversions within an ancient monolith to the planet Mortis, while on their way to rendezvous with Captain Rex. Following a vision of her older self, which warned her of the darkness within her master, Tano and Kenobi were kidnapped by the son and daughter, two Force beings that resided on the planet. After being used as a part of the father's test for Anakin, they returned to their damaged ship, where Tano was kidnapped by the son and infected by the dark side. Eventually, after she fought with Kenobi and Skywalker for the Dagger of Mortis, the son drained her life force. However, Skywalker was able to bring her back to life, acting as a conduit and channeling the life force of the daughter, who had been mortally wounded by the dagger protecting the father from the son, to Tano. While Skywalker faced the son, which resulted in both the son and father dying, Tano repaired the ship and the three Jedi were able to leave the realm of Mortis. A year and 9 months into the war, the Separatists captured Jedi Master Yvonne Peel, who carried vital information alongside Captain Wilhuff Tarkin involving the secret hyperspace lanes called the Nexus Route. Upon his capture, he was taken to an ancient prison known as the Citadel, which had been designed to detain Jedi if any had strayed from their path. In order to rescue Master Peel, Skywalker, Kenobi, and Kun devised a plan to rescue him. Although Tano had been informed that she was not allowed on the assignment, she snuck along anyway and proved it helpful during the infiltration of the Citadel. The team of Jedi and clones were able to free Peel and Tarkin from their cells, but not without multiple casualties in the process, including Master Peel himself, who had managed to tell Tano his half of the Nexus Route coordinates before dying. Tano would travel with Skywalker, Kun, and their respective troops to another engagement on Felucia. However, Tano was captured by the Trandoshan Loth Terran while attempting to infiltrate a Separatist facility. She was dropped with multiple other prisoners on Island 4 on the jungle planet Wiska, where members of a Trandoshan hunting guild would hunt them for sport. Working with and rekindling the hope of 3 former Jedi younglings who had been also captured, Tano was able to escape by gaining control of the Trandoshan base with the help of Chewbacca and other Wookiees as well. Later missions included leading a squadron of fighters to break the blockade above Umbara, rescuing Togruta slaves from Zygeria after their native planet Takiros fell under the control of the Separatists, accompanying Amidala to the first ever sanctioned peace conference between the Republic and Separatists, which was interrupted by Junior Senator Lux Bonteri, who Tano then followed to protect but was knocked out and brought to Karlak where they met Death Watch, who they eventually fought and escaped from. Training and assisting the rebels of Onderon along Skywalker, Kenobi, and Rex in their fight against the newly installed King Sanjay Rash and his Confederate occupation forces, where she was unable to save Saw Gerrera's sister Stila from falling to her death, and later accompanying a group of younglings to Ilum as they searched for kyber crystals of their own. However, on the way back to Coruscant, they were attacked by Hondo Anaka and his pirates, who hoped to sell the crystals, and Tano was captured, although she was later freed by the younglings and able to escape. Towards the end of the war, Ahsoka Tano's friend, Barriss Offee, who believed the Jedi Order had become evil, corrupt, and overly belligerent during the war, secretly orchestrated the bombing of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. In the aftermath of the incident, Tano and Skywalker were called back from the defense of the planet Cater Nemoidia to investigate the situation. Their investigation led to a guilty Letta Termund, the spouse of a temple worker, being imprisoned. However, while Tano was questioning Termund, Offee force choked her, killing her in the process and framing Tano for the death. She was imprisoned, but freed herself and escaped after noticing a keycard by the cell, which was placed by Offee to incriminate her even further, as well as her lightsabers among countless dead clone troopers. Tano was able to escape into the Coruscant underworld, and later worked with Asajj Ventress, who she offered a full pardon from the Galactic Senate in return for her help. Contacting Offee, who she believed was her one last ally within the Jedi, Tano was told to visit a warehouse where Termint had supposedly obtained the nanodroids for the bombing. However, upon arriving, Tano was attacked by Offee, who wore the bounty hunting gear of Ventress, who had since left Tano on her own. After a short duel, Tano was knocked to the ground next to a crate of nanodroids, where she was captured by Republic forces. She was expelled from the Jedi Order and turned over to the Republic for a military trial. As Tarkin lobbied for a conviction and death sentence, Skywalker brought an imprisoned Offee to the trial. Tano was acquitted as the captive Offee confessed to her crimes. Following her trial, Tano was personally pardoned by the Jedi Council. Although she was offered the title of Jedi Knight, the event had severely shaken her faith in the Jedi. To the surprise of everyone involved, she refused to accept the Jedi Council and Skywalker's invitation to rejoin the Order, and instead left to discover a new purpose for herself, despite the plea of Skywalker. A short time after leaving the Jedi and close to the end of the Clone Wars, Tano was traveling Coruscant's industrial district when she crash-landed on the platform of a repair shop on level 1313. There she met the shop's mechanic, a human named Trace Martez, who allowed Tano to stay and fix her bike for free. After low-level gangster Pintu Son-El and his henchmen interrupted the work looking for money from Rafa, Trace's sister, Ahsoka fought them off and forced them to leave. Tano and Trace then made their way to Rafa's laundry to tell her about Son-El, where they learned about a job from the Twi'lek Lokon they had come across, in which they had to construct 3 load-lifter droids. However, after Trace failed to put a restraining bolt on one of them, it rampaged through the lower streets, causing much damage before Ahsoka was able to deactivate it. Although Ahsoka argued that the repurposed demolition droids should be taken apart, Rafa ignored her and completed the job anyways, gaining enough money to pay off Son-El. Later, after a crew Rafa had hired backed out of a job, Ahsoka and the Martez sisters left aboard the Silver Angel, the ship Trace was building, to complete the job themselves. The job was to transport 3 crates of spice from the Outer Rim world of Kessel to the Pike crime lord Marg Krim on Obadiah. However, in a panic, Trace dropped the spice while in hyperspace, and after their attempts to trick the Pikes upon their arrival, the 3 were imprisoned within the Pike Palace. Following the interrogation, Tano and the sisters were able to escape into the city, but the sisters were captured again. During another escape attempt, Tano planted explosives throughout the prison while also learning that Maul was on Mandalore and working with the Pikes. The explosion caused enough chaos to allow the trio to escape and return to Coruscant. Here they were approached by Lady Bo-Katan Kryze and members of her Mandalorian resistance, who had followed them from Obadiah. Tano and her agreed to ally to defeat the rogue Sith Lord Maul. Knowing they did not have the numbers for a siege of Mandalore, Tano and Kryze contacted Skywalker and Kenobi for their assistance. Kryze proposed that she would give them Maul once he was captured, and that she would take leadership role on Mandalore once the siege concluded. However, due to the unexpected Separatist attack on Coruscant, Kenobi and Skywalker were forced to take their forces there, leaving Tano and Kryze with only a small division of the 501st, who had honored Tano by painting her markings on their helmets, led by Commander Rex. Before departing, Skywalker presented Tano with her lightsabers, now emitting a new blue hue. Arriving on Mandalore, the conflict began as Mandalorian and Republic forces descended upon Sundari, forcing Gar Saxon and the other super commandos to escape into the Undercity. While Kryze and her Mandalorians headed to the Sundari Royal Palace to capture Almec, Tano and Rex investigated the Undercity after receiving a lead from Clone Captain Vaughn. However, they were ambushed, resulting in the deaths of all the present clones, and Tano being surrounded by Maul and his super commandos. Eventually Rex and his men were able to arrive, but Maul was able to flee capture. Later, during a hologram message with Kenobi, Tano was updated on the status of the war, including suspicions regarding Darth Sidious and Skywalker's assignment to spy on Chancellor Palpatine. Soon after, Tano went to the royal prison alongside Rex and Kryze to interrogate Almec, in order to learn more about Maul's plan. Although he was assassinated by Saxon, Almec revealed that Maul did not want to escape, and had wanted Skywalker to arrive instead. Later, when entering the palace, Tano, Rex, and Kryze found Maul sitting in the throne of the Grand Salon, along with the captured clone Jesse. After Rex and Kryze left to deal with other matters, Maul sought Tano's help in defeating Sidious, but after learning that Maul orchestrated the war on Mandalore to kill Skywalker, the two dueled. Eventually, Tano kicked Maul out one of the palace windows, causing the duel to continue outside on the support beams of the domed city's ceiling. Maul was ultimately captured when Tano threw him off the beam, holding him in the air with the Force as he cried out for her to let him die. After a meeting with the Jedi Council via hologram, in which she neglected to share what she had learned from Maul, Tano left Mandalore. While in hyperspace on their way to Coruscant, Tano received a vision of Windu dueling Palpatine and Skywalker betraying him, but when she went to tell Rex about it, Order 66 was enacted. Although Rex attempted to fight the inhibitor chip, the other clones began shooting at her. After escaping into a vent above, Tano freed Maul to use as a diversion, recruited help from the droids in the storage, and then researched files on the Clone Trooper 5s, which Rex had told her about before being overtaken by the inhibitor chip. Upon discovering the existence of the chip, she captured Rex and removed his inhibitor chip. Now, with all the other clones targeting them, Tano and Rex were able to escape the Venator aboard a Y-Wing as the ship crashed into a nearby moon, after being caught in its gravitational pull when Maul destroyed the ship's hyperdrive. Arriving on the surface of the moon, they erected graves for the fallen clones and faked their deaths, leaving Tano's lightsabers behind. Following the destruction of the Jedi Order, Tano was listed amongst the inquisitorious priority targets of presumed survivors of the Purge. Tano later secretly attended Amidala's funeral on Naboo, where she was noticed by Bail Organa, and then with Rex and the Martez sisters, began working against the newly formed Empire. Ahsoka Tano fled into the Outer Rim, intent on hiding from the Empire. Under the name Ashla, she arrived on Thebeska and was taken in by the influential Fardi clan for her skills as a mechanic. However, after using the Force to save the Fardi children from fallen crates, Tano used the chaos of Empire Day to escape the planet. Tano found herself on the remote agrarian moon of Rada in the Outer Rim, where she was again taken in as a local mechanic. She befriended sisters Kaden and Miria Larte, who came to regard her as an adopted family member. However, when the Empire arrived to exploit Rada as a source of crops for the Imperial military, Tano began taking precautionary measures, including stockpiling rations and hiding her ship. Although some farmers were fleeing the planet or burning to fight back against the Empire, Tano suggested that the safest way to hurt them was to slow the growth of their crops. As resentment grew for the Empire, Tano created a resistance movement to fight back. But during a mission to plant corrosive charges on Imperial walkers, Tano learned that some of her recruits had gone behind her back to cause real damage with explosives and blasters. Outgunned by the Empire, Tano had to use the Force to escape with any survivors into the caves. After revealing her identity to the Resistance as a former Jedi apprentice, Tano ultimately decided to leave the planet after learning how interested the Empire had become in her. Tano's presence on Rada drew the attention of both the Galactic Empire, who dispatched the Inquisitor's sixth brother to Rada, and Senator Organa, who hired Chardri Tage and Tamsin, along with R2-D2, to find her. After traveling through 7 Outer Rim systems, Tano decided to return to Thebeska in order to check on the Force-sensitive Hedala Fardi. After being welcomed back into the Fardi clan, she talked with Hedala about a shadow the young girl had sensed while she was away, which turned out to be the sixth brother, who had been hunting Hedala before being redeployed to Rada. Tano eventually began to run off-world transport missions for the Fardis, which she used as a way to run her own mercy missions. However, upon returning to the Fardi household, she discovered an Imperial search of the house, causing her to leave the planet once again. Tano took to a small, sparsely populated world in the Thebeska system, where she was followed by a Black Sun agent. During her dogfight, Tage and Tamsin arrived to chase off the Syndicate's ship and trap Tano in a tractor beam. Believing the second ship to be hostile as well, Tano knocked out Tage and Tamsin upon entering the ship. While navigating her way to disable the tractor beam, Tano encountered R2-D2, who told her that Tage and Tamsin had been sent on a mission to take her to meet Bail Organa. Tano convinced R2-D2 to release the tractor beam on her ship, and instructed him to make sure that she could track the ship. After repairing her ship, Tano hit on one of the small moons in the system. After retrieving the location from R2, Tano boarded the Senator's ship and surprised him in his temporary office. Organa then told her he was recruiting people for a rebellion against the Emperor, the Empire, and everything it stood for. Tano then told Organa that something was hunting down Force-sensitive children throughout the galaxy. She agreed to join the rebellion if Organa agreed to help her protect the children. Senator Organa accepted her bargain and told Tano that he needed her help for a mission on Rada. Organa informed her that his contacts in the Rada sector had reported the presence of a new Imperial agent who had gray skin and was armed with a lightsaber, this agent being the sixth brother. The Inquisitor had already attacked the Radian insurgents, who had retreated to the caves, recapturing Kaden before slaughtering the others. After resting, Tano assembled 2 lightsaber hilts from the scrap metal pieces she had acquired over time. After arriving on Rada, Tano learned that Miria was the lone survivor after the 6th brother had taken Kaden prisoner and murdered the other farmers hiding in the caves. While approaching the Imperial compound, Tano was attacked by the 6th brother, using his double-bladed lightsaber. She dodged his attacks using the Force, and after using the Force to throw him off balance, reached out and managed to nick the power connection in the lightsaber hilt, causing it to overload. The hilt exploded on him, leaving the 6th brother dead. She then retrieved the kyber crystals from his lightsaber and used the Force to heal them of the dark side presence, causing them to turn white. Armed with a new pair of white lightsabers, Tano entered the Imperial compound and freed all of the prisoners, including a severely injured Kaden. After treating Kaden's injuries, Tano exited a cantina to find several of Organa's A-Wings bombing the Imperial compound. Organa then landed several transports and cargo ships, which proceeded to evacuate the farmers. During the hyperspace travel on the way to Alderaan, Tano informed Organa that the farmers wanted to join the rebellion. After some discussion, Tano convinced Organa to let her run his intelligence networks and to provide her with a new ship. At Organa's suggestion, Tano adopted the codename Fulcrum for her work as a rebel spy, allowing her to network with rebels across the galaxy, including an Axe informant located on the planet Gorel. At some point, Tano was tasked with assembling a task force to capture the ruthless Imperial officer, Admiral Grant, and his retreat on a distant world. After a rebel team managed to locate and retrieve an artifact within Imperial City on Coruscant, which turned out to be a shard of the Bardodan Sphere, Tano arrived to extract the team. By 5 BBY, Tano was a key member of Senator Organa and Senator Mon Mothma's rebel network. Under the codename Fulcrum, Tano facilitated the flow of intelligence and communications between the rebel cells across the galaxy. One of these cells was the crew of the Ghost, which operated on and around the outer rim world of Lothal. She spoke only with Hera Syndulla, the owner and pilot of the Ghost, and identified herself only by her codename. Missions that she gave to the Ghost crew included attacking an Imperial convoy, retrieving supplies at Fort Anaxis, an asteroid base used by the Grand Army of the Republic, and transporting supplies from Kalar to the Lothal settlement Tarking Town. Sometime later, after the rebels rescued Sibo, a Rodian in the Imperial Information Office whose headpiece contained vital Imperial information, the Ghost rendezvoused with Tano's vessel. Syndulla turned Sibo over to Tano, who would be able to analyze the information contained within Sibo's headpiece. After the capture of Kanan Jarrus, the leader of the Lothal Cell, by the Empire, and the Ghost crew's defiance of Tano's warning to go into hiding, Tano and Phoenix Cell arrived above Mustafar to help the crew of the Ghost escape with Jarrus. When the rebels were safe and away from Mustafar, Tano revealed her identity and told them that they were part of a wider rebel movement. After the crew of the Ghost joined the Phoenix Squadron, Ahsoka Tano acted as a mentor and advisor to the newer rebels. She had a particular affinity with Kanan and his apprentice Ezra Bridger, fellow Jedi who were resisting the Empire. Sometime after the Ghost crew joined Phoenix Squadron, a distress signal was picked up from a Gazanti-class cruiser, sourcing from one of Ren's old friends, Jannard, who had helped her escape from the Imperial Academy of Mandalore. Although Tano decided to join Syndulla and Ren on the mission to the ocean planet Quela, they were unable to rescue Jannard, as he was shot by Imperial forces as they were escaping. After stumbling into a trap set by Darth Vader during the Imperial siege of Lothal, a tracking device had been planted that allowed him to track down the Ghost crew and the Phoenix rebel fleet. During the battle, Tano sensed Vader's presence, screaming out and collapsing unconscious in shock. Following the destruction of the Phoenix flagship, Phoenix Home, the Phoenix rebels were on the run. Tano suggested that the crew of the Ghost seek out an old friend, the former clone Captain Rex, who she believed was in the Selos system. After some difficulty, Rex agreed to join the rebellion and supplied them with a data card containing a list of Republic installations in the Outer Rim and Mandalore. After returning from Selos, Tano reunited with her old friend. While monitoring transmissions from Mustafar, Tano discovered that the Empire's Inquisitors had a secondary mission which involved kidnapping Force-sensitive children. Although she was too late to stop the 7th sister and 5th brother on Chandrel, Tano was able to arrive on Takobo to protect Jarrus and his fellow rebels, who had managed to rescue an Ithorian infant and the infant from Chandrel, from the Inquisitors, who she easily bested. After Jarrus and Bridger were attacked by the Inquisitors on Usalan, they decided to return to the Lothal Jedi Temple with Tano. Inside, Tano was confronted by a vision of Skywalker. As the image of her former master faded into that of Darth Vader, she was forcibly confronted with the realization that her master may have indeed become Darth Vader. The Inquisitors arrived, but the visions in the temple distracted them, buying Tano and the Jedi time to escape. After the rebellion set up a new base on the planet Adalon, Tano traveled there to meet with Jairus and Bridger to join them on their quest to Malachor, which they had been sent on by Master Yoda. The group eventually made it out of hyperspace, and Tano explained that they were seeking knowledge that would help them defeat the Sith. After falling through the surface of the planet, they discovered an underground Sith temple and a battlefield where some figures had been turned into stone. After being separated from Bridger and attacked by the 8th brother, Tano and Jairus made their way to the temple where they encountered the 7th sister and 5th brother as well. During the duel, they reunited with Bridger and Maul, who Bridger had found underground and worked with to retrieve a Sith holocron beneath the temple. While Bridger was sent to the top of the temple with the holocron, Tano, Maul, and Jairus defeated the Inquisitors, but Maul revealed his true intentions to take Bridger as his apprentice, and blinded Jairus with his lightsaber. Tano made her way to the top of the temple, where she found Darth Vader about to execute Bridger. She drew the Sith Lord's attention away, and after a short dialogue, the two engaged in a duel. Although she was blasted off a ledge with the Force, she survived and caught up with Vader as he attempted to use the Force to pull the holocron away from Bridger and Jairus, managing to cut a furrow into his mask. After a brief moment, the two re-engaged in combat as the temple locked down, allowing Bridger and Jairus to escape with the holocron. Tano was overwhelmed by her former master, but was able to survive when a portal suddenly appeared behind her and she was pulled into the world between worlds by Bridger, now 2 years older. After having to convince Bridger not to use a portal to save Jairus, who had sacrificed himself since then, the portal turned out to be an attempt by Darth Sidious to gain access to the hidden dimension. The pair fled, but were separated as they escaped. Tano made her way to a portal that brought her back to Malachor, near the base of the Sith Temple. Upon her entrance into the dark tunnel, Tano came across Morai waiting for her and another portal into the world between worlds. She returned to the mystical plane and embarked on a spiritual journey. 5 years after her encounter with Ezra Bridger in the world between worlds, and the liberation of Lothal, during which Bridger went missing by taking himself, Imperial Grand Admiral Thrawn, and the Chimera away into hyperspace via Apata Purgil, Tano traveled to Lothal to meet with Sabine Wren, who sought to bring Bridger home. Around 9 ABY, Tano had begun searching for Thrawn and following a lead to the forested planet Corvus, looking for information on the location of the Grand Admiral as a part of the search for Ezra Bridger. In order to obtain this information, Tano ventured to the city of Caladan, which was ruled by Magistrate Morgan Elsbeth, a servant and former apprentice of Thrawn. When the Mandalorian Din Djarin arrived to complete his quest to bring an infant to the same species as Yoda to the Jedi, Ahsoka telepathically communicated with the child, learning that his name was Grogu and he had been raised in the Jedi Temple. After a conversation revolving around Grogu's past and his Force powers, she tested his abilities, but his attachment to Din caused her to refuse to train him. Attempting to strike a deal, Djarin told Tano that he would assist Tano in saving Caladan if she assisted him in training Grogu. Agreeing to this, Tano and Djarin set off on their journey back to Caladan. Once they arrived, a skirmish took place between Tano and Elsbeth's forces guarding the city, before she moved on to duel Elsbeth while Djarin was in a face-off with a hired gunfighter Lang. Tano was able to disarm Elsbeth of her Beskar spear, after which she asked her one last time where her master, Grand Admiral Thrawn, was. The city of Caladan was free, and Tano gifted the spear to Djarin. Later, Tano once again refused to train Grogu, as he now saw Djarin as his father, but she directed the pair to the planet Tython, where an ancient temple with a strong connection to the Force stood. At some point later on, Ahsoka visited Jedi Master Luke Skywalker and Grogu on Ossus, where Skywalker was building a new Jedi temple. Djarin visited the temple to visit Grogu to gift him with the Mandalorian chainmail, and met with Ahsoka much to both of their surprise. Tano recalled warning Djarin that his attachment to Grogu would be difficult to let go of, while she took him to the hill where Skywalker was seated with Grogu, but asked him to consider if he was doing it for Grogu or just for himself. Ahsoka understood that Grogu missed him a great deal, but warned that seeing him would only make things more difficult for him. Djarin acquiesced to Ahsoka's offer, and handed her the Beskar armor to deliver to Grogu. Tano then joined Luke in watching Grogu's training exercise, before bidding him farewell. During the Battle of Exegol in 35 ABY, Rey fell in combat against the resurrected Darth Sidious. In a moment of tranquility, Rey heard the voices of Ahsoka Tano and the departed Jedi who had come before her. The Jedi spirits gave words of encouragement to Rey, allowing her to muster the strength to rise and ultimately defeat Sidious. Tano and her journey has also been mentioned in Luke's personal journal during his exile on Ahch-To, Hondo Ohnaka's Galactic Explorer Guide, and the Journal of the Wills. How excited are you for the Ahsoka series? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like the video and subscribe for coverage of Ahsoka as a new episode premieres every week, and remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you all for watching, and remember, the Force will be with you. Always.